Hi, I'm Becky Bradley, and this is the Feel Good Always podcast, real stories of love, connection, and remembering who we are. So, if you're new here, welcome. And if you've been following along with this Feel Good Always message, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everyone's here. For those of you that are new, we are here really just bringing this Feel Good Always energy, which is this moving into this higher level of consciousness that has come to me through my daughter, Keira Bradley. She died in a UTV accident. Really her death and really my own death, not physical death, but really a death of who I thought I was. I was really opened up to this a lot more and seeing a lot more. And so I'm really just sharing the experience that I've had, the connection that I have really to her and everything and everyone, and what I am being taught. And really, this podcast is all about sharing all of that. And so that we could all move into this. This is for everybody. This is what's coming. I say a lot of times on this podcast that it is done. We are just remembering, we are just walking back to the truth of who we are, that only love is real, that we don't have anything to fear, absolutely nothing. And how do we get there? For me, I am still on a continuous journey, but even though my circumstances, my human circumstances would lead me to believe an old version of myself, that my life was over and that I was, destined to be in misery forever. But that is not the truth. That is not what happened for me. And peace is possible for all of us. And we can feel good. We really can. Now, it does take work and it takes practice. And if you're here listening, then you're here to do the work. And I applaud you for that. And I appreciate all of you that listen along, that give me the feedback. I say over and over that we do this work together. You know who is coming to save us and bring us towards this higher level of consciousness? It's literally us. So we're doing it, through God, through our higher selves, through really for you. I like to think of like every person here that is listening has their own concept of what that is. And, we can listen to ourselves. All are welcome here, all belief systems. And really the truth is that only love is real. And we're moving towards that feel good always. So all of that being said, I have been thinking a lot about raising your vibration. We talked about it in my podcast with Emily Graham, and really talking about, we talk about grief, we talk about suffering, and we talk about emotions that are lower vibration and higher vibration. So first of all, I want to say that I knew nothing about any of this before Keira died. And what I mean by that is that I would hear things like high vibe, low vibe, the vibes aren't good, or, good vibrations. Like I understood that as like, okay, good vibration is feeling good. I actually just didn't really put a lot of thought into it. My experience has been that I will feel something in my body, like I will actually embody and have the experience with something. And then I kind of find out later what it is that I'm experiencing. So at least in this experience with Keira, my connection, all of that has been something that I have it's been a felt experience. And then I get explained what it is. I find out what it is. And this is how I learned about my vibration. So what happened is Keira died. And then my entire family, we started seeing, signs, not just like one or two, hundreds in those first 2 weeks, just like unexplainable, couldn't even believe how many signs were coming in. And I don't know why specifically us, we saw so many. I mean, I do actually know, I think the work I'm doing today is part of it, that I would be able to stand in the truth and really lead other people into this. And it was, Keira's death was an activation point for me, for my family, and for this massive stuff that is happening in the world. And so we started seeing a ton of stuff, and to be able to connect to her. And so if you haven't listened, you can go back and listen to podcasts to see how that happened. And I will continue to tell that story over time. But there was just a lot happening. And you really do have to be in a higher vibration to be able to connect, really to feel good. Now, I want to tell you something. Obviously, in those first days, I was feeling worse than I could possibly have ever felt in my life. inconceivably horrible, and wanted to die. I'll just keep saying it just to be really clear, like really how hard I know anybody could imagine. But I still was getting a lot of connection. And so what I've learned is like the vibration of sadness is not a low vibe feeling. It just not. It's love. And there are some emotions that are tied to vibration that are lower vibration. So that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how our emotions can be tied to our vibration and our ability to feel good and our ability to really connect to ourselves, our higher selves, to be able to hear what we need to hear, to connect to God. For me, it's to connect to my daughter on this other side, to really be able to hear the truth. It does help to be in a higher vibration. That is why I was able to hear and see the truth of all of this. And now I can share it with you because I was in a high vibration. I didn't really know what that meant, but I was experiencing a high level of connection. And once I could connect directly with Keira, and she was like literally spelling things out for me, she would keep telling me, "You are very high vibrating. You are very high vibrating." She would say it over and over, and I didn't really understand. But then I had people in my world coming to explain this to me. And one of the people, multiple people were bringing this to my attention. And there's probably people listening to this right now that they know this. I didn't understand that, like, everything is energy, everything is vibrating. And there's the low, we live in the 3-dimensional world. And then, on the other side and all of this other stuff that we have access to, we do have access to it, is at a higher vibration. And the only way that we can connect to these beings, which could be my daughter on the other side, could be angels, we have to have our vibration has to be high enough to be able to connect with them or to be able to see what they're showing us. And so how do you do that? How do you have your vibration be high enough to connect? Really, and if you're not even trying to connect, a high vibration is it is feel good always. So I see a wild amount of connection all the time. The natural world is always communicating with me, and that's because my vibration is pretty high, and it continues to just ascend, get higher. So when I say higher level of consciousness, our vibration is rising. It literally is rising. All of us, you listening, people can listen to these podcasts. I can send audio messages to people, and people will start seeing signs as they're listening because the vibration is very high. The frequency is high, and it also calls in other matching energy. So if your energy matches with this, we're magnetized together, and that's how we find each other, which is really beautiful. It's like there's actually not much to do except for me to say my truth. I put it out there, and it finds who it needs to find. So the people that shared, what they did is they shared this thing called levels of consciousness with me. This is just one person, David Hawkins. He wrote a book called Levels of Consciousness, which I have not read. But I have experienced it. So sometimes I don't need to read the book necessarily because I've experienced these higher vibrations. And I'm going to share down in the show notes this scale that shows what the vibrations are. And you can open that and look at it. But I'm going to try to talk through it so that maybe you don't need to actually see it as I'm talking. So we have considered like an upside down triangle, and down at the bottom you have certain vibrations that are lower vibrations, like shame and guilt, fear, grief, and anger, desire, pride. As you go up, we're going to move up the scale into like higher vibration. You have willingness, acceptance, oneness, inner light, inner wisdom, love, presence, non-duality. So as you notice, as you move up into a higher level of consciousness and really a higher level of vibration, the emotions are emotions that feel better because shame does not feel good. Guilt, regret, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, all of those things, they don't necessarily feel good. And there is nothing wrong with any emotion, though. I want to be super clear on that. We actually just need to feel these emotions. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I say a lot on here, only love is real. And when we move into the truth of that only love is real, that we're all connected, that we come from oneness, that is what, that is what I experience, which is I experience oneness. And when I say that, I mean that I feel connected to everything, which feels really good to feel that connection. And fear, guilt, shame, I'm not saying these are bad, but we need to pay attention to them. Is it real? Is fear real? Is guilt real? Is shame? What is it trying to tell us? We need to feel it in the body and just watch it and observe it. Anxiety, all of those things, because we really want to move into more of the truth of who we are, which is, love and joy and peace. These are more expansive states. And so David Hawkins has another book, which I will put in the show notes. And in that book, it's called Letting Go. It talks a lot about surrender, and it talks about these emotions. That these emotions can be fully felt, and we call it feel good always, right? So we allow ourselves to feel, we let it move through, we watch it, we feel it in the body, and then we can allow more light, more beauty, more joy to come in. Because sometimes we can get stuck in those lower levels, fear of change. Sometimes it's collective conditioning, things that are going on in society and belief systems from grief, suffering, thinking that your suffering is permanent, that I'm never going to feel better, which is something that I easily could have told myself. And I did tell myself after Keira died. But I'm thankful that my vibration was rising and there was a voice that was like, is that true? Because we really should question everything that tells us, that tries to tell us that the suffering that we're having is permanent. Nothing is permanent. So it is not true. And shame and guilt can keep us trapped in those low vibrating emotions. So it's like really important to speak of these things, find somebody to talk about, and really ask yourself if it's true. Do some writing. Grief, I want to talk about grief being I don't even know if it's really an emotion, because grief encompasses so many things. It could be a lot of emotions, but I want to talk about sadness. Sadness, being sad, is not necessarily low vibration. And the reason I say that is that, like, when Keira died, I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at everybody. I wasn't mad at God. I really just had no space for that. I didn't. That's just the truth. And I know that a lot of people, they do get mad. They have regret. And that makes sense. A lot of people I know experience that with Keira. I just didn't have space with it. All that I had space for was the extreme sadness and the shock and all of that. But sadness is love. That's all it is. So in that sadness, I still could connect with her and I could still see her in everything because I was still in a higher vibrating state, because sadness is just love and it's okay. Everything is okay, actually, but it was a feeling, and I needed to feel that. I needed to let my body release the pain and feel the intensity of that emotion. And I still do that. Sadness, being uncomfortable, all of that. Sadness is just love. That's all it is. And so I allowed myself to feel it every single moment of the sadness. I really allow myself to feel everything. But if we can move out of regret, shame, anger, those things don't really feel that great. And so noticing where you are, if you feel angry, notice it without judging it. If you feel resentment, notice it. Just surrender these feelings, feel them fully, don't resist them, and move the energy. I talk about that a lot. Like, I would hear Keira say, like, it's just energy, it needs to move. And I didn't understand what that meant. But at that point, it was very confusing for me because I'm in this deep grief and I feel like I want to stay in the pain because that makes me feel closer to her, but it's not true. And I think that we could do that in anything when we're in suffering. It's like wanting to stay in the pain of the loss or whatever we think that we were going to have forever and now is gone. And so Kira was really reaching to me to let me know that she was not gone. And everything still, the love still remained. And so to move that energy, I did things like I didn't really understand what I was doing. I'm just telling you what I did, but I would hear to move the energy, meditation, being out in nature, yoga, breath work. So really, choosing to be courageous. People say to me all the time that it is brave for me to share on this vulnerable level. And all I say to you is that when we step out in courage, if you look at me and think I'm brave, but you're afraid to be vulnerable, just remember how you look at other people that are being vulnerable. So if you look at somebody that's being vulnerable and you think that they are brave, maybe you being vulnerable too is braveness. So just remembering that love is a frequency that aligns with compassion, gratitude, being of service to others, really actually even being service to yourself. I always say, like, we can't completely take care of others unless we take care of ourselves. Listening to this podcast, giving yourself time in the morning, anytime, walking out in nature, just taking a deep breath. All of that is living in service to yourself, which is really in service to the greater good. And really, to be in those higher vibration states, we be present, we live in the moment, we live in the now. That is when those higher states naturally open, is when we're here. I'll say it over and over and over again. I'm here. When people ask me about something in the future, I'm usually like, well, I'm right here. I'm right here in this moment. It doesn't mean that my mind doesn't go to the future, but I really just come back to now. I stay here because that is where everything is happening. That's where the joy lives. Even when it's hard, it's actually easier to bring yourself back to the present moment. Next time something is really hard and you're spinning and your mind is spinning or you are sad, try to notice how you feel. Because, well, obviously notice how you feel, but also, so notice how you feel. And yes, I was meant to say that, but also notice what your thinking does. Because if your thoughts, when you are in a state that doesn't feel good, start telling you that you're always going to feel like this, or maybe something that happened 2 years ago is why I'm like this, or what about in a year, or I'm always going to feel like this, or I understand where the mind goes. It does this. So could you just, the next time it happens, watch it? So for me, when those things happen, I will really just like come into my body. There's my foot is touching the floor, my legs are touching the chair, or if I'm driving, my hands on the steering wheel. When I'm driving and I would have these like obsessive thoughts that I wanted to get out of, I would be like, there's a tree, there's a sign, and I would read the signs really to come back into the present moment. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do this. Our personal like way to do it is different for everyone, but just noticing is so important. That keeps you, and then that helps you move into this higher vibration where we can be connected to everything and everyone and really feel good always. And so remember, your vibration affects other people, right? We all know that when we walk into a room and it feels somber, we can feel that. We can feel the energy. Or when we walk into a space and it feels like expansive and joy and all of that, we can feel that too. So your vibration is rippling out in everywhere, into your community, into your family, everywhere, all the way through humanity. So we can maybe look at the world and think that there's a lot of collective grief, collective fear. But I want you guys to remember this. We are having our own experience. So I can get stuck worrying about everything in the world, or I can have my own experience and remember that we're also having a collective awakening. And sometimes that looks really like a lot of suffering. I know it did for me. And so just remembering that's what we're moving towards. We're moving to feel good always. It's an invitation for all of us to bring the light, to bring that high vibe to everything that we do, everywhere that you go. Just try to remember, like, am I having this conversation with the person that I just walked by? Like, did we meet on purpose here? Yes, you did. And so every single interaction is an opportunity to spread this beautiful light, to spread this beautiful message. And simple ways to do this are, What are you grateful for? Letting go of judgment, just choosing truth, asking, is that true? Giving yourself permission to feel it all. Another thing you can ask yourself is, does this choice that I'm doing in this moment raise my vibration or does it lower it? I like to think about, I like to use it as an example. Like when you're driving and you're pissed off at someone because they, cut you off or they didn't turn the way you thought or whatever. And then you get mad and you yell at them. No, I'm not saying everybody does this because I barely do it. It's I see it happen. Um, but when something like that happens, can you watch yourself in the experience and how it feels and just ask yourself, like, how does that feel? So let's just start observing ourselves. I mean, that's what I do. I'm not saying things don't trigger me or things don't upset me, but when things start to trigger me, when I am faced with something that I start judging, especially if it's like a belief system or definitely belief systems, because I have my own belief system. And of course, there's, all these people in the world, and we're not all going to believe the same thing. But if only love is real, I can look at what their belief system is and try to understand rather than be understood. I try to understand rather than be understood. That does not mean I'm walked on. That does not mean that I don't stand in the truth of what I believe. And that doesn't. It just means that I don't have to point fingers at them and judge them, because judging them and wishing that they were different than they are doesn't help me. It does not spread the feel good always. So I really try to do that. And I want you guys to try to do that. See if it helps. Okay. So our vibration can be high or low. It's not about perfection. It's about being aware. It's about coming into alignment. And every time we move, we are there. We have done it. I've told you guys this. We have done it. I remember that we have done it. So just remember, every minute is a moment to move into this. It could be like a tiny little grain of sand towards more peace for everyone. So you're not alone. You have all of us, all the people, even if you don't know the people that are listening to this, we're all moving. We're all intentionally trying to feel better for ourselves so that the world can collectively feel better. So you have your connection to your loved ones, your connection to strangers, beyond this world, to the stars. We really have a connection with all of life. And I really hope that you leave this message and you look for something that makes you feel good, and you spread the high vibrations and you spread the feel good always. And I know that there are people that have a better understanding than this to maybe explain it. I would love for you to message me if you have any ideas about it, because I am always learning, and I really am learning from all of you. All I know is that I experience a high vibration, and it is possible. And so what we do is we look to people who are embodying and have what we want. So, and to know it's possible, instead of looking, sometimes people can do this, and I've done this. We look at people that have something and we think, well, they only have that because of XYZ. That's not possible for me. We're not going to do that. Anything is possible. Peace is possible for everyone. I am evidence of that. I am evidence. My entire family is evidence of that. My daughter died and peace is possible. It is. That I can feel a connection to her without having her physically here. It takes a lot. It takes a lot, but I do it and I put effort in it. And I love that you're putting effort in it too. So I want to say thank you for listening today. I appreciate all of you that have joined me along in this journey, and that we all really came here to and agreed to do this together. And we find each other, and it's really beautiful. And this is the work we're doing today. So maybe be intentional thinking about that. And on my next podcast, you're going to meet Lacey Pride. She talks all things human design, which also, when we are living in alignment, our vibration is higher, and she is going to help you understand how our human design can help us do that. So tune into that. I think you'll love it. And if you feel called to, you can share this with somebody. Subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform. If you want to leave a rating or review, you can do that. You know what you should do too? I'm just going to say this. Hug an animal. Go look at animals. That will raise your vibration. My cat just came in here. Actually, this whole time that I've been recording this podcast, they have been like barking. I've had to pause it. They're coming in. And you know what? They're just like, tell them. Look to the animals. They have a super, super high vibration. They have super high vibration. They're freaking amazing. Actually, Lacey Pride, she talks a lot about her animals too. And you're probably an animal lover if you're here. If you're not, you should be, because, well, we love everything. But today, in this moment, love your animals. Look to them, because they are super high vibe. Try to do what they're doing, or lay next to one, or pet one, and that will help raise your vibration too. I love you all. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time.